If you had a overweight woman living on the welfare who had 5 different kids by 4 different men, and she was on some talk show, I don't know what you still have over there, Maury Povich, whatever. Yeah. And she was saying, oh, it's so hard. I'm raising these kids by myself. Everyone would be clapping, saying you're such a hero. Well done to you for having all these kids with a bunch of different men. If a multi-millionaire, very successful individual, who pays for his kids, who pays his child support, who pays the private school, who looks after everyone, says, oh, I want to have, 4 or 5 different kids by, 4 or 5 different women and just have a bunch of different families because I can't have as many kids as I want with one woman. Suddenly I'm a villain. I'm the worst man in the universe, and everyone will point the finger at me saying, oh, this guy's a misogynist.
But a lot of times, like even people looking at my Instagram profile, they already think they know everything. Like, look at him, look at her, who do they think they are? They're probably, nobody's trying to break in this world, breaking in the industry and whatnot. My Instagram is, it's just for modeling and just for fun. I try not to post my personal life on there just because I don't want people really knowing much going on about my personal life. But going back to you, my impressions were, the first thing I saw was, what did I see? A couple videos about Bitcoin. I mean, I haven't been all the way down. I haven't scrolled all the way down, but yes, something about that. And then just like a lot of pictures, smoking cigars and like fancy watches and, the cars. And I don't know if I saw any pictures with women, I don't recall, but just mirroring that, that lifestyle that every man wants. That's just kind of the first impression that I got.
Okay. I mean, well, like you said about people saying this person thinks he's that, or this girl thinks she's that, I completely understand it, because what you have to understand is in your world, my world, in all the Instagrams across the globe, there are lots of people who are, let's say, pretenders, who do try to live a certain lifestyle. I try to be very authentic. I'm not one of these people who pretends that he's a billionaire, but I do have a very nice collection of cars. I am a self-made man. I do very well for myself. And I treat Instagram and social media, and this actually gives me problems when dating and actually meeting nice girls, let's say, as a, in the 1600s when a king used to paint a portrait of himself. He wouldn't just paint a picture of his face. He'd like paint a Bible into his hand to show that he was pious, or paint a hammer into his hand to show that he was tough on justice. That's how I see Instagram and social media these days. You could show your real self, but only the parts of yourself that you wish to display to the world. So it does sometimes give off this playboy, daddy's money kind of guy. I get quite a lot, despite the fact that that's completely not the case.
Money, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So I do get that, I do get that accusation sometimes, but my dad never had any money, so that's completely false. But I paint this picture on purpose because that way I find that when people judge you, just like they judge you or any of your friends or anyone you know, they're not really judging you. They're judging this character that you've created for the world to see. So they can take their opinion, and do whatever they want with it. But it doesn't resonate anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't really affect me. I mean, everything I post is mostly like for work and to get work. A lot of my work comes off of Instagram.
I can imagine.
So, I put out there, obviously, like the best version of myself, my best photos and whatnot. And just what people say is completely irrelevant. I'm like, okay, but what you just said, did it make you any money? No, but it made me money, right? So it really comes down to the business perspective of it.
I know. I didn't see any pictures of your law degree, though. Why is that?
I have an undergrad law degree. I don't have like a JD. However, I don't know. It doesn't really give me work off of Instagram. My modeling does. So that I just kind of decide to like keep it personal and, and just do it as like a long-term career path. But for now, I'm just kind of at a stage where, okay, like, let me finish my modeling and let me get this stage done with, and then I can progress my professional career. Because obviously I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I won't look like this forever. Although I wish I would.
Well, Eastern European girls have good genetics anyway, so you'll probably last longer than a lot of typically American.
Some of them, not all of them. Let me ask you a question. Let's see. I wrote down a bunch of questions here. And I don't think I'll end up utilizing any of them because I just kind of am coming up with them on my own. What is the first thing you notice about a woman, an attractive woman?
An attractive woman. So besides the fact that she's attractive, I noticed.
The first thing you look for, like, what's your go-to? Is it the smile? Is it the eyes, the lips? I don't know.
It's not necessarily, and this is going to sound very cliche. I don't have a type. Tall, short, blonde, brunette. That's not what really does it for me. I like women that are pleasant to be around. So within the first 5 minutes, how often is she smiling? It's not so much about her smile. It's about her attitude, her demeanor. You know, does she have a screw face? Is she talking rude to the waiter? Does she say please and thank you to people? That's the first thing that I notice. Depending on what I'm looking for, I'll be perfectly honest. Sometimes I'm not looking for a relationship, in which case I don't care very much as to whether she's, you know, polite to the waiter, because I won't see her very many times after that weekend. But it all depends on my intentions with the girl. But yeah, how pleasant is she? How happy is she? That's what I like, because I like happiness around me. I like happy, positive people around me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with that. I cannot tolerate negativism. It just drives me. It makes me. It just doesn't make me happy, and I choose to be, you know, around positive people and people who will uplift you. So I completely understand in that aspect.
So first and foremost, before I start asking you what kind of men you go for, are you single? Do you have a boyfriend?
I just started seeing someone. Yes. So I was actually in a 5-year relationship during my undergrad and a little bit after I finished college. It was, I mean, 5 years is a long time. I just think that, I mean, we were 10-year difference. He was older. And I think that he was, at that time, he was looking for something a lot more serious than I was. But I really enjoyed my time with him. I mean, we loved each other and everything. I just think that it came to a point where he's like, okay, like, I need to have kids, you know, and I need someone to settle down with. I'm like, oh, no. I'm not there yet, you know, like, I still have a lot in me.
But can I ask why? Because a 10-year age gap, to me, that would be ideal. If I was looking for a woman to settle down with, I'm 32. By the time I get to 33, 34, I'd like a woman about 10 years younger than me to settle down with. Why do you think that's not a good match or a good idea right now?
For me, my early 20s was way too young. I mean, gosh, I can't even take care of myself, let alone take care of somebody else. I just wasn't at a spot, and I still am not at a spot where I can settle down and like get married. Like, I like my personal space respected, and I just like to finish a couple things in my life before I, you know, get the ball rolling in marriage and whatnot. Like, my ideal age would be my late 20s, early 30s to get married. And I think that comes with, like, here, the way lifestyle is. I know in Europe, like, people get married a lot younger. And they decide to have kids a lot younger and whatnot. But here and I'm sure you know this, I mean, you were born here. Early 30s is like typically when you get married and you have children. So that's like my ideal timeline. And for him, he's like, well, I'm going to be, you know, in my 40s. That's too late for me. So
your ideal setup as a man your age, you're in your late 20s.
No, like the guy I'm currently dating, we're 6-7 years apart about. And I think that's a lot better because, I mean, he's developing his business and he's like, I'm not ready to settle down yet. Like, I need a couple years. I'm like, well, that's perfect because that's how much time I need too. So.
Yeah. I don't know. In my opinion, I think the American way is a little bit, it is too late for women. I know, I'll be perfectly honest. I think it is too late for women in the United States. I meet women here who are, I don't know, 19, 20, and I say, oh, what do you want to do with your life? And they'll say something that American women detest. They'll be like, oh, I want to get married and have children, which I think is a beautiful, wonderful goal for life for young women to want to be. If they want to get married and have a beautiful family, I don't see anything wrong with that. Whereas when I speak to people like my sister, who never left the United States, she's your age, lives in America. She's a lawyer. They're older than me. I'm a little bit older than you. I think she's a lawyer actually. But when I tell her things like that, she's like, "Oh,
I don't even know.
yeah, I'm telling you." So she'll be like, "Oh, that's wrong. Women should women should want a career, and women should want this."
Yes, that's how I think.
Yeah,
Like, make something of yourself. I don't know, like here, and I think it just comes down to the lifestyle. Like in Europe, it's so common for the woman to be at home with her kids and take care of the house. Like it's just how it goes, and that's what they want. But here, like, I can't even, like, I just can't stay in the house and do the cooking and cleaning. Like it drives me nuts. Like I need to have something of my own and build myself, because at that point I feel like I'm a submissive partner depending on somebody else, and I can't do that.
There are all these great, let's call them career women, who've had their careers. I saw on your Facebook you're a big fan of that Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't dislike her. Good for her. Amazing woman. Did very well. Broke a lot of glass ceiling. But anyway, my point is this. I was recently at my grandmother's birthday. She was in Alabama. She was 90 years old. This was 1 year ago. She was turning 90. So I flew all the way from Romania, changed in London to Atlanta, and I rented a car and drove all the way to some redneck town in the middle of Alabama to see my grandmother. She hadn't seen me in like 10 years. So when I got there, so typically in the United States, this whole let's get married at 30 and have kids after our career, this is new. This wasn't the United States of the 1940s and 60s. It really wasn't. So my grandmother, I was standing around this room. She had 9 kids, about 30 grandkids, and another 15 great-grandkids, and 1 or 2 great-great-grandkids in this massive room full of people.
Wow.
And I was standing around and everyone was, hugging her and telling stories about her and telling all these beautiful things. And I thought, this is, to me, that's a woman's life fulfilled more so than a woman who, worked in this career or that career. I don't even know what job my grandma ever did. I don't even know what career she ever had, but there were no mentions of it come the end of her life when we were in that big room full of people. She was just looking around at all the life that she created, and she had the biggest smile on her face I can ever remember seeing any woman have. And I treat women very nicely, so that's a very big that's a very big compliment. So I think that this idea, certainly in the minds of Western women, and you are, for all intents and purposes, an American woman. An American woman. I just don't think it's that beneficial to women or men or to anything or anybody. But
I mean, that's one perspective to say. I think it depends, like, how passionate you are about what you do, and in terms of making a difference in the world. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. For me personally, if I'm old and I haven't fulfilled my passions, my career, and I would just sit and think. Like, I always like to think it, and I think I got this from I don't know where it was. I think it was a motivational speech. Like, you imagine all these ghosts around you, right? You're on your deathbed, and they are kind of like, oh, you could have done this with your life, and you could have done that with your life. Mm-hmm. You're so talented. Why didn't you utilize this to get from here to here? And I'm so motivated that I'm ready to, like, take on anything. And just so when I get old and I am on my deathbed, I don't have any regrets about not pursuing this, and this. Does that make sense?
It does. But I don't see how a woman on her deathbed, instead of being surrounded by ghosts of herself talking nonsense, I don't understand why a woman on her deathbed surrounded by, 50 people who she directly created could be upset and think, oh, well, this was a poor choice. I don't understand in a million years how she could think that was a bad idea, regardless of what career she worked or wanted to do.
You could still have children and have a successful career, and still have your loved ones by you.
That is true. That is true.
It just depends on the person and kind of what they want to do with their life.
So what do you want to do with yours? Tell me. What's the big vision? What's the big goal?
I mean, my original vision was I actually wanted to be an attorney, which I still do. But life just kind of took me in an unexpected turn into pursuing diplomacy and international work. And I think the reason why I kind of went down that route is because I don't want to stay in Chicago. I don't want to, like, when you have your law degree, you're kind of committed to the state. And, if you want to move to a different state, you have to take an exam, and it just gets really complicated in terms of transferring your credits. And I just don't want to deal with that, especially me. I'm very, I've lived in different parts of the world. and I just like to move around. So, you know, working in international organization, you can work from anywhere. So I think that's kind of what happened. And, you know, we'll see long term what happens. But eventually I might go back to Geneva, actually. I really love it out there.
Switzerland is a very nice place. I spend winters in there's a place not so far, about an hour and a half, called Gstaad. Gstaad. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a very nice town in Switzerland where lots of people go in the winter time. So I spend my own amount of time out in Switzerland. The only problem with Switzerland, no, I'm not going to talk about that. That's nothing to do with what this podcast. No, it's nothing to do with what this podcast is about. So let's not go there. But yeah, no, Switzerland is a very nice place, and I don't understand why a girl like you, who has lived in Switzerland and has the opportunity to do different things, is in Chicago. I guess the coronavirus has stuck you there, but yeah, I highly recommend moving to Switzerland. You know, find a nice, rich Swiss banker, marry him, have some kids.
That is so funny, because when I lived there, I used to be with the host family, and my host mom, she was very modern, and she'd be like, Kristina, just move here, you find a rich man, you know. Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, but,
I'll
you know,
do that.
But I wouldn't advise, you know, if you're going to marry a dude, I'd avoid the Swiss. They're a little bit boring, you know. He may have money, but you'd end up cheating on him with somebody like me, and then he'd get upset, and then, you know.
What do you want out of life?
Oh, what do I want out of life? I have everything that I always wanted in life, and I'm very true to myself, and I'm very honest. And because this isn't a date, I don't have to sugarcoat anything or hide anything. I think if you ask every man in the world, every single one, when we were about 10 years old or 11 years old, how do you want to live when you're in your late 20s, early 30s? Like, in 20 years time, where do you want to be? They'd all say the same thing. They'd say, I want a giant house. I want lots of pretty women. I want to drive around in fast cars. That's what they would say. Now, I find a lot of men in the positions of a lot of men who attack people like me for living my lifestyle. I find their position wholly dishonest, because they've had the dream that they did have as a young boy. Every single young boy had the exact same dream. They've had this dream beaten out of them by bad relationships, I don't know, lack of ambition, working their crappy job, getting fat, whatever it is they've done in their life that has shrunk the possibility of this dream happening for them. They then internalize that anger and they burst it out at people like me. Oh, Tristan, yeah, you're living such a superficial lifestyle and you shouldn't be living that way. It's like, they would if they could.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm one of the most fulfilled, happy people on the planet. Because, you know, when I was, as I said, I don't come from money. Me and my brother used to live in a homeless shelter in England. Very long story, when we were very young. To come from absolutely nothing and to be living the way I live is incredible. And I wake up every day and I can't believe it. So I have everything I want from life. The only thing I want next is some children, of course. Now, I don't know whether to, I know some really, really nice girls. I don't know whether to, let's call it, settle down and have a bunch of kids, or I don't know if I should just have 5 or 6 different kids from 5 or 6 different women and just have 25, 30 children, an amount that most men shouldn't have in their lives, which sounds nuts. But let me stop you for a second. You are from the United States. I'm from the United States. I know the American attitude. If you had a overweight woman living on the welfare who had 5 different kids by 4 different men, and she was on some talk show, I don't know what you still have over there, Maury Povich, whatever. Yeah. And she was saying, oh, it's so hard. I'm raising these kids by myself. Everyone would be clapping, saying you're such a hero. Well done to you for having all these kids with a bunch of different men. If a multi-millionaire, very successful individual who pays for his kids, who pays his child support, who pays the private school, who looks after everyone, says, oh, I want to have, 4 or 5 different kids by, 4 or 5 different women and just have a bunch of different families because I can't have as many kids as I want with one woman. Suddenly I'm a villain. I'm the worst man in the universe, and everyone will point the finger at me saying, oh, this guy's a misogynist. This guy's a pig. This guy's an animal. I don't understand why one's a hero and one's a bad guy. And I don't really care, because if I want to do it that way, I'll do it anyway. And I won't mind what society has to say.
I think it comes down to values and like the whole idea of monogamy and just being with one person for the rest of your life and having kids with them, which is in our world, it's very unlikely. I mean, the divorce rate here is 50%, so yes. Your chance of having children with someone else, or, having more than one father, it's very likely. And it's kind of scary, to be honest, because my parents have been together their whole lives. I mean, if you look at the whole idea the whole idea of love. I mean, my mom was pregnant with me when she was 15. She was very young. So it's like I personally know better to believe in love and monogamy, but then I look at my parents, I'm like, but it does exist. Look at this example, right? So it just saddens me, the society we live in, because I mean, I'd want that for me, but the chances of being with one guy, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's likely, to be honest.
Yeah, and men are animals, and the secret truth of it is, for those men who don't live honestly like me, there's a whole universe of dishonesty that women never even get to see. They may catch their guy cheating once, or they may catch their guy cheating twice, but the infrastructure and the network behind it is so crazy. So you don't know how I made my money, so I'm just going to tell the world. I made my money running what is called Webcam studios. So I had hundreds and hundreds of beautiful women who worked for me, who would flirt and strip and have virtual dates with people on the internet, idiots on the internet, literally. And all of my customers are American. All of them are from Western Europe, England, Germany, America, all of them, every single one. And these people will sit on camera to a beautiful girl who isn't even naked most of the time, crying their eyes out, saying how much they hate their wife and they hate their kids and they hate their life. Now, no, I'm telling you. So listen, at $5 a minute, they're complaining about how much they hate their wife. And they may hang up the phone at the end of the night and go upstairs and go to their sexless marriage bed. They may do that, and people will call them loyal. They'll call them monogamous and faithful. I'm sorry, that is not faithful at all. Giving away the family's money to businessmen like me to buy Lamborghinis with, when you have kids who need you, when you have a wife who needs you, that's not monogamy in the slightest. And the infrastructure behind it is crazy. So for every woman, actually, here's some advice. I'm going to give you some advice. You want to take advice from me? Even though you probably
I'll take advice from you. Go ahead.
Anytime you go to date a man, don't look in his phone for other messages from other girls. That's the least of the worries. Go to his web browser. And I'm not going to advertise them here.
I so agree with this. Yes.
Yeah. Go to www.p. I'm not going to say what shouldn't come up, but I think you know. Now, the top webcamming websites in the world, I'm not going to plug them, even though they know me very well, because I'm one of their biggest studio operators. It's how I made my money. It's how I still make some of my money. Look for those sites. If they exist, immediately break up with him. Immediately. No questions asked. Don't talk to him anymore. Because, as I said, I live very honestly. And if I have one girlfriend or three girlfriends, or if I'm single and I'm dating 5 women, at least that's who I am, and I am who I say. For men, I think pornography and masturbation are one of the worst habits that there are, because look, it's one, I'm a very ambitious guy. I don't do either of those things. I know you're going to say, oh, I've never met a man who said that. I don't do either of those things, but I basically fuck every night, so I don't really need to. But it's a very bad habit for men, because it does 2 things. One, it takes their energy and their hunger and their desire away from actually being nice enough to women to get women to sleep with them. So if you can watch anything you want and jerk off at your computer every single day, you're not going to buy flowers and take a woman out on a romantic date. It puts weird, it sets men up psychologically in a very strange way, where they don't have realistic expectations from sex and from women. And, you have this whole community of people who call them incels, involuntarily celibates, as though the world owes them sex.
The whole way you see sexuality and how women should be. And a lot of times, I mean, in porn, it's not remotely close to what real life sex is, or what you can expect from a woman, So it use your whole, I don't know, I think it really messes with your mind. But I don't think I'd have to disagree that it's only for men. I think that includes women.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the fallout, I guess, one of the fallouts from my industry that's leaked its way into the real world, and I feel very guilty for, and this is a very basic example when I say pornography teaches men the wrong way of dealing with women, is the unsolicited dick picture. Now, that comes from a world where, so my world, where I have all these models broadcasting online, guys get their dick out on camera or show their dick in a picture or text girls their dick or Snapchat girls, whatever it is. And the girls who work for me always reply positively. Oh, wow, that's hot, because they're getting paid money. They're getting paid $5 a minute to listen to these idiots.
Yeah.
So it programs these guys' minds where they'll see, and I'm sure you get it, they'll see your Instagram and they'll think, oh my God, she's hot. How can I impress her? I know. Snap. Like, no woman wants to see that. No woman wants it. Like, the girls literally get the pictures and they type, oh, that's hot. And they'll be like literally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't watch porn because, one, I don't need to, and two, I produce adult content. That's my business. So I'm like a cocaine dealer who sees all the negative effects his cocaine does to other people and doesn't sniff the cocaine himself. So it was really my business decisions that led me away from ever consuming this kind of product. But I do think it is a red flag if you have a boyfriend and you are sexually active, especially if you live with him or live close to him, for him to be watching porn. I really do think that it's damaging to a relationship. But live chat websites are a red flag you should absolutely walk away from immediately, because you don't know what goes on there. I do. It's not just paying the girl to see her naked. It really isn't. It's a lot of emotional attachment. If they want naked women, they can Google images of naked women any time of any day. It's the interaction that they're paying for, and they're paying a lot of money for it. I'm a very wealthy man. All of my money came from this industry.
That's a whole nother perspective that I never thought of. Very.
And it's not old men. It's not old creepy guys on the internet. It's men who you know, men who you've dated, men who you work with. Believe me, it is an absolutely massive industry. It's why that guy on Your News, which news channel in the States, where that guy, he ended a Zoom meeting and then started dropping his pants and getting his dick out very recently.
Really? I haven't even seen that. You know, I've been staying away from the news for political purposes because I don't want. So I don't even know, but that is so funny. I'll have to Google that after.
Well, it happened. His last name is Toobin, Toobin. That's all I know. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, I'm so shocked. I'm so this." I'm like, "I'm not. I know these dudes all day long with their pants at their ankles. Like, I know they're doing it. It's it's crazy. So yeah, you should definitely stay away from men who that's the first step. Check his phone. Any live chat websites, walk away immediately. There's no excuse to ever be on those.
What if they wipe the history? Why do you have to continuously spy on them? I don't know. I mean, my idea is if you have to spy on your man, like, it's time to walk away. You know, I'm that type of girl. Like, I give you all trust until you give me a reason not to trust you. And that might be a recipe for disaster, but I'm clever enough to kind of figure it out. Like, I watch everything a man does. So when we go out, where his eyes are, who he's looking at, how he's talking to people, you know, and these kind of things kind of add up over time, and you kind of get to see just by their body language what's really going on in their mind, you know. Especially, like, I've had guy friends, and you know, we'd go out to dinner just as friends, nothing, you know, nothing between us, and I've had one of my guys, and I won't say who it is, and he would, you know, continuously check out other women. You know, it's just his eyes wander, and I notice these things, let alone, like, if he's on a date, the other woman would notice, right? And I tell him, I'm like, listen, I know you've been having some trouble dating, but, you know, you might want to get a head start with stop looking at other women when you're with someone else. You know, it's quite obvious, and it just makes you feel like you're, I don't know, like, as being the woman, it just makes you feel like, oh, am I not good enough? Why isn't he just looking at me, right? And now, I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first I have a question. Do you not get that same feeling if you found out that your boyfriend was watching pornography? Would you not feel the same way? Or is it different? Or is it worse? Or is it more acceptable?
I don't think it's more acceptable. I think that in my mind that I input that porn is just so common that in a way it doesn't really bother me anymore. You know, it used to. And yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to, like, almost demoralize your values because of that. And I have, and it really sucks because, I mean, I come from, like, very strong ethics and values. You know, my parents were together forever. I'm sure they don't watch porn, or maybe they watch it together. I don't know. And I don't want to know, but it's just, yeah, it is sad. And it, you know, it used to bother me, but it just comes to a point where it just has become something that I've accepted, because I'm like, I'm never going to find a man who doesn't watch porn. Never.
Believe me, they do exist. They do exist.
That's just my take on it, just from experience. And, you know, I don't want to live in a fantasy world where I'm like, oh, look at my boyfriend, he's such a goody good, and then have him do it behind my back. I'd rather know about it, right? But
you just used the sentence. The sentence you just used was, I'd rather him do it and I know about it than for him to do it behind my back and to live in a fantasy land. So does that apply only to guys watching porn and jerking off on the internet, which I think is lame? Or does that apply to something he's doing in the real world? Does that apply to him, I don't know, let's say not cheating, but, you know, he's out with his friends. There are some pretty girls. His friends are single, going and hanging out with women he doesn't know, trying to help his friends out, being a wingman. If he tells you, does that make it better?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at least, you know, it makes me feel like he's not hiding anything. And I think, like, if you, and, you know, and we've talked about, like, if you ever have it, you know, different intentions for me, or you even have the thought of cheating, like, please either come to me or talk to me, or just break up with me. Like, don't go behind my back doing stuff. But at the same time, like, of course he's going to know that I'm going to break up with him after. So how honest is that person going to be? And I'm not talking about just in general, men, you know. Yeah. Like, they would take that. Some are very honest about it, and some are like, oh, but she will break up with me after, or things won't be the same in the relationship, so I'm just gonna go ahead and stay quiet. But I think it's great, like, all the things you're telling me really allow me to get into the mind of a man, because, you know, women were a little more emotional, so we think with our emotions. For me, I think I'm a little bit of an exception, because I use my brain over my emotions any day. It doesn't matter how hurt I am, you know, like, use your brain. I'm not swayed by my emotions. Like, there's no way. But it's just different in how, you know, women and men operate. But it goes the same way. I think, like, I have men around me all the time, you know, and I would tell him, I'll be like, hey, I'm out with this and this and guy friend. But normally, like, if the guy that I'm with knows all the guys around me, they're not worried. They're like, nah, she won't do anything.
Well, it's not about worried. I have had wonderful girlfriends in the past who I trust very much. I do not allow my girlfriends to have guy friends. I don't allow them to. And they have to choose if they want to be with me or if they want to keep their guy friends. And that's a line that I draw. And
really? Why is that? Just wondering.
Well, there's no, you have to understand, there is no platonic friendship in a man's mind with an attractive woman. You may think there is. So you may, and this is an experiment I've pulled with, so I encourage you to do the same if you ever feel brave enough and you feel like losing some of your guy friends. It's an experiment that I pulled with many girls. I said, oh, this guy, no, I've known him since I was 15. He's like my brother. I said, no, he's not like your brother. To you, he's like a brother. Give him this much opportunity and he will jump at it. And they're like, no, I mean, you know this. But younger girls, they don't know this. They're young and naive. They're like, no, really, he doesn't like me. He has a girlfriend, actually, as if that justifies it. And I should let her hang out with this dude. So I say, okay, let me send him one message from your phone. Just one. And I said the typical, you know, that Tristan's been treating me badly and you're the guy who's always been there for me. Do you ever have some kind of interest? And it's always, oh my God, I love you. I was waiting for this message. And then they can't talk to him anymore. So I don't let them have guy friends, because I would if the guy was actually their friend. So if a girlfriend of mine has a gay friend, cool, go out with your gay friend. He doesn't want, he's not going to try to fuck you. That's cool. Yeah, that's a guy friend, because he's actually your friend. There's no such thing as guy friends. Don't even pretend that you don't know this, because I saw you smiling when I was saying it. You give this much opportunity to any of your guy friends.
Correct. But I feel like it's about how you tame them. If you got to teach them that this is as far as it would go. You have to tame them the right way so they respect you, and they, you know, and you don't give them the opportunity to have more than that, you know?
Well, that is possible. But the sad fact of the world that we live in is not everybody plays by the rules of society. And the fact of the matter is, a friend is somebody you can trust. I can trust my friends. If I'm out with my friends and one of my friends, say, gets too fucked up drunk, I'll carry his dumb ass home. I'll shout at him the next morning. But I mean, we don't really do that. Well, when I was younger, we used to get fucked up drunk, I guess. Yeah. You know, a friend is someone you could trust. Can you get blackout drunk at your guy friend's house and pass out? I mean, you should be able to, but he's not really your friend if you can't trust him. So you shouldn't get yourself, you can't put yourself into any situation with somebody you can't trust. And that's why I don't allow girlfriends of mine to have guy friends. So I know in America, to American women, it sounds strange, but my logic at least is solid. You can't fault my logic. I'm not going to let you go out with these guys.
Perspective on it. I just feel like, and I think that you're onto something there. I mean, definitely there's a lot of truth to what you say. I just feel like a lot of times it's how you tame them and how you teach them to act with you, and you know, you have to be honest with them that nothing's ever going to happen, and never give them that chance to take advantage of you.
Yeah. Well, I guess your boyfriend is more trusting than me, because if I was your boyfriend, I would certainly ban a girl who looks like you. I would ban you from all male friends. But I'd probably end up locking you in the house. Yeah, exactly. But you know, I mean, you are originally Bulgarian. We could move to Bulgaria. I could keep you in a nice village house there, locked inside. Old school.
Nice, yeah. They have very nice village houses.
They do have some very nice village houses, yeah. But also not very nice ones. But yeah.
In Europe, you get a little bit of everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask me? I'm just looking here through.
So here's
Are you currently dating anyone? You asked me, however.
I am, to be perfectly honest, I am never, ever wholly, fully single. I don't think many people in the world are, if you ask them the question. I mean, there are women who you'll meet and they'll say, yeah, I'm single, but they're still meeting up with their ex-boyfriend, or, you know, they have a guy who they're sleeping with, they have a friend with benefits, or whatever you want to call them. I don't think very many people are ever truly, truly single when they say that they are. So I'm, to be honest, I haven't been single since I was 17, 18 in terms of without female companionship if I want it. I don't have a serious girlfriend, I guess, like I've had in the past, but I'm single enough. It depends. Are you asking? I'm joking.
No, I'm not asking for my own.
I'm joking. You live too far away anyway. Look, you live too far away anyway. So you're very beautiful, but you know, the distance thing wouldn't work for me. So I'm going to have to say no right now.
There's no way. It never works out.
But yeah, I mean, no, I'm never really single. I mean, I don't spend my nights by myself.
Well, single to me means you can see multiple people. It's just like, are you committed to one person, you know?
Okay, so I guess I'm always single then.
Not a bad way to live life.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not. And I'm very capable of commitment, but I'm going to warn you about something. I'm going to warn you about the most dangerous type of man out there. And I guess I shouldn't really be saying this because girls I know are probably going to see this, and that's just the way it is. They can leave me. I'll find new ones. But there's a type of man that's the most dangerous type of man in the world, and you need to look out for them. And they are men like me, and I'm going to tell you why. Ever since I was a kid, and it starts slow, but believe me, there's a point to this. I have spent almost every day with my brother. My brother is 1 year older than me. We were poor together. We were training. We were kickboxers together. We are all the businesses that we own are together. He lives here in this house. We share our houses. We share our car collection. Every minute of every day, I'm with my brother. You see, a lot of men walk through this world looking for companionship, and they are the guys who can be the more committed, the more monogamous, let's say, for all intents and purposes, better boyfriends by, I guess, somebody like your standards. Whereas me, I don't need companionship. That's not what I don't have anything inside me that wants to find another person to be around with and hang around with. If I want to go see a movie, I'll talk to Andrew. If I ever want to talk about politics, talk to Andrew. Anything I want to do, go driving, talk to Andrew. I don't need women around me. So women have become very much a hobby of mine because I enjoy female company. And I actually, and I see a lot of this on Twitter and on the internet, I love women. I hate men who hate women, and I hate men who talk disrespectfully about women. You know, the guys who will, even the guys who pretend they live like me, they don't. But the guys who pretend they live like me are like, oh, women are only good for one thing. No, they're not. Women are amazing. Women are wonderful. If you're sick, you want your fucking friends taking care of you? No, you want your woman taking care of you. You're laying in bed at night, you want to hug your friends? No, of course you don't. You want to hug your woman. Women are wonderful, but they've become very much a hobby of mine because I don't need companionship and I'm not seeking that like a lot of people. So if you meet men like me, look for that. That I guess would be a, well, it depends what you want to do. It's a red flag in one way, but
it's good and it's bad. I mean, depends how you look at it. I think that for me, I've always been in long-term relationships. That's just how I always am. I think I do better in relationships. And I think, you know, when I was single in between my 5-year relationship and my new one, I realized that a lot of the time I was just feeling lonely. It wasn't because I needed someone. It's because I wanted someone, you know, you want like to share everything with that person, right? And it was a pity, you know, and it sucks because I'm like, man, am I dependent on this, on the fact like, you know, that you want someone to tell you they love you and this, but then like, is it genuine that you're with them, or are you just with them because you're lonely, right? So I think like it's good that you don't have that type of attachment, but at the same time, like maybe if you did, you know, a long-term relationship, it would be easier for you to walk away than stay in it just because you're not that emotionally attached, you know. Just one perspective of it.
But it's not that you know, there's nothing wrong with you when you feel that way when you're single. Human beings, we're social animals at the end of the day, you know. No one is truly happy when you, I mean, we lock people in little rooms by themselves as punishment. And there's a reason that's a punishment and not, you know, and not a reward. It's we are social creatures, and it's very it's very normal to feel like you need somebody around you, and it's very normal to feel that way when you're single. But I never feel that way. So sometimes I meet women, I honest to God, I meet women who'll say stupid things to me like, oh, you're 30 something and you still live with your brother. I'm like, one, I don't live with my brother. Me and my brother live together. One. Two, what the fuck? Why else would I not live with? What am I gonna do? Buy a house down the street? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That is true.
Exactly. I mean, I've got 7 bedrooms. It's not like we're fighting for space.
Right.
So I don't see anything wrong with that. So
I think that's another going back to the Western type of thinking that you always, you know, if you're living with family, like all of a sudden, you know, you never moved out, and that's not true. Actually, in Bulgaria, typically when you have family, they or when you get married, the girl will go and live at the guy's house. So, you know, they'll like build another floor, and the parents will be like, okay, we'll be on the bottom floor, you guys can take the top floor. Like, they'll expand the house. And, you know, Europeans, it's always construction in the house. It's always something happening. So and Americans, like when I tell them this, they're like, what? Like, you need to buy your own house. You can't live with, you know, his mom and dad. That's weird. It's just a different culture, you know.
You know what though? I think that this way, the European way, is superior. And I'll tell you who I learned it from. I learned it from the Pakistani community in England. There's a huge Muslim Pakistani community, especially in my hometown. And so a lot of them were my friends, my training partners, guys I knew. And one of them was a lawyer who made about £50,000 a year, not rich by any standard, but he had a Ferrari. So I remember being about 17, 18, me and my brother, we were still living together, but through necessity, because we rented one tiny apartment together. And we said to this guy, how do you have a $200,000 Ferrari when you're making £50,000 a year? And he said, well, it's very simple. We're Sikhs. No, they weren't Pakistani Muslims. Sorry, they were Sikhs from India. My bad. I remember now. But similar kind of cultural values. He said, so I'm a Sikh. So what I did was, when I got married, my wife came and moved into my house. And now we have a 12-bedroom house. And my parents still live there because it's their house. And all my brothers live together. And we pool all of our resources. And he said, you white people, he was talking about Europeans. I'm mixed race, as I said, but he said, you white people, you're crazy, because if you had 5 brothers, you'd all move out of your family house and pay 5 different rents to people like me who own the property. And you divide your money and you pay 5 different sets of bills and 5 different sets of costs. So they had a Ferrari and a Bentley in a 12-bedroom house, and they all lived together. And I just thought, is that really so insane? I didn't think it was. And me and my brother, I wish I had more brothers. But there's only 2 of us. And in fact, my cousin lives with us now. I flew him over from Romania, from California, he's an American. He lives with us now and he works with us and works for us. And so I like that.
Yeah,
So
no,
if you
that's
do
a
want
great
to
way to look at it.
so if you do want to marry me, you have to live with some other guys. It's okay. We'll have our own place. I promise.
Well, I think it's a very different perspective, you know, that here us Western people are just not used to, unless you're like me or you who grew up in Eastern Europe and you just have a different mentality about these things and living situations. And, you know, just because you live with other people doesn't mean you don't have your personal space. It, you know, it just means you're pulling those resources. And now guess what? You have money to, you know, invest in other things, or more money to do other things with your life, travel or whatnot, or get a Ferrari, as in, you know, this case.
Yeah.
With
Or
this.
two. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you have anything else that
I
you wish?
don't. I mean, this has been a great conversation. I'm really glad that, you know, I did this podcast.
No, I have a bad feeling. I have a very bad feeling. I have a bad feeling that after you hang up, after you're done talking to me, you're going to start seeing more red flags in the guys that you meet, and you're going to end up sad and lonely.
A guy that doesn't have any red flags, like,
Yeah,
they all do. They all do.
good, but don't leave your boyfriend because of what the things that I say. Whatever you do, don't do that.
I'm not going to leave him. I'm not planning on leaving him, but it's different, you know, to see it from a different perspective, especially a man's perspective, because this is something you're whoever you date, you know, they're not just going to come out and tell you these things. No one will. So
yeah, and like I said, it's a surprising number of men who think the way I do, certainly, and the number of men who wish to live the life I live. I mean, it's beyond anyone's belief. That's why I get a lot of people who, you know, come at me with insults and judgments and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, when you do live, you know, like you're beautiful, you travel the world, you do photo shoots all over. I saw some of your photos, you're Punta Cana. I saw you were in a bunch of different places having the time of your life. Do you really care that the fat, ugly, lonely girl sitting in Alabama hates on your pictures? Like, of course you can't care. So it's very easy when you're living the dream life for your gender role or for who you want to be. It just doesn't matter what people say about you.